You don't have to. You say we're not ready to bring that forward, that's all. Somebody might ask you. I don't know. Let's play it by ear. All right, we almost ready to roll? Yeah, okay. Sure. Good. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'll call our regular public council meeting for Monday, November 9th, 2021 to order. First bit of business is new business. And I'll start with Deputy Mayor.
Thank you and congrats.
Okay. Councillor Goss.
Acknowledgements.
What?
Acknowledgements.
Okay. Councillor Appleby. Councillor Pollard.
Congrats.
Councillor Manning.
I'll pass.
Councillor Hepper. And I got thanks and congrats. Okay. Is there anybody in the gallery that would like to go on the first Q&A? Could I get your name?
Jerry Duggan from the G.
Okay. Jerry. Anyone else?
After Jerry, I'd like to probably short, but not the thing.
Okay. Jerome Cody. Anyone else? Rick Thorne? Anyone else? That's it? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please? Moved. Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. We have a set of public council minutes here for November 15th. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconder?
Second?
Seconded. Any errors or omissions? See none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We don't have any proclamations. We don't have any presentations. Q&A. Mr. Duggan.
I had a recent hip replacement, but I'm going to remain seated if you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'd like to speak to the approvals that council made at the last public meeting regarding subdivisions at Pie Drive and 51 North Pond Road. Back in 2010, the town of Corvette entered into an agreement with YBC Corporation, granting an approval to develop a subdivision on North Pond Road. And that was a condition that YBC had in terms of purchasing the property, which was eventually purchased for $2.2 million. Consequently, council did approve an application for development for 24 lots in what was obviously proposed, or the future plans for that subdivision would ultimately be 180 lots. In 2011, for some reason, the council rescinded that approval, citing that there was water allocation problems. So from 2011 to the present day, this is 10 years, YBC has been attempting to, and working with council to find ways of going through with this subdivision. As of, in 2020, council adopted a policy, because of the water problems in the town, whereby they only allow infill, projects, where they define infill as having the main, municipal infrastructure in the ground with level. And it was, while it wasn't strictly stated, it was intimated that it would be onesies and twosies along existing lines. The subdivisions at the 51 Northbound Road and Darrowside Drive are not infills, according to the definition stated in the town's policy. So, as a consequence, council's approval of these developments is contrary to their own policy. And it raises the issue of what happened to the YBC's application for development, where the council was telling YBC time and time again, well, we're waiting for results from our water studies. We're waiting for the results from our water studies to tell you how many lots that you can develop. And the council also stated that there would be no further developments after December 31st, 2020, because there was no water allocations there. They didn't know how many water allocations there was available. So in early 2021, applications came forward for Darrowside Drive and 51 North Farm Road, asking for water allocations, and council approved it. And there was no, it seems rather unfair to grant these water allocations to entities that have only submitted applications in 2021, when YBC's application had been there for 10 years and working with the town, submitting engineering drawings and discussing with the planning department, what information you needed, this, and there was correspondence back and forth. The whole litany of YBC's efforts were documented in the information brief that was submitted to all the councilors at the town of Correspondence. So consequently, we're in a position now where with these approvals, where YBC has, they had two options or courses of recourse, and that was one to issue an appeal to the Department of Municipal Affairs, which we've done, and also consult with our legal resource, where they say this breach of contract would support a statement of claim against the town. So the town is faced in a position of potential liability of between $8 and $18 million. And, for the taxpayers of Torbay to be faced with that potential over something that could have been worked out, through cooperation between the town and YBC is really, we can't understand. So consequently,
So
we're still in a position, wanting to work with the town, but, the company has no other recourse because, the loss of $18 million is just, unsustainable for us.
So, thank you. As you stated, that these applications that council had passed are currently being appealed. So it's really, I can't speak to them at all. But thank you for voicing your opinion, and you got to do it in the public chamber, so it's all a matter of public record. That's there's not much more I can say about it than that. So thank you. Mr. Cody?
I love seeing all you again. Very nice. I hope I don't come back here anymore. But anyway, fear is a crazy thing. Fear gets us in trouble. Fear saves us. Friday, I looked at the market, not looking at the market. But I watched the Dow crash to the point that I thought the world was over and we're back into this cold again. Over the weekend, you listen to the sites. Wow, what is this? ain't might be that bad. The market gone back up again. So, you know, we look at it, and sometimes what appears to us to be our biggest fear is not. I look at all these great people there, the good guys. And I try to understand everything that's on the go. You made a decision last week. Councillor Pollard, you made a decision. Councillor Manning, you made a decision. Councillor Tapper, you voted that decision. Mayor Scott, you did. So did Councillor Thorne. And these other great people also made a vote, whatever it was, to disfavor. That being said, I think you made a mistake. The way I ended it is the way I'm going to put it to you again. You don't need an appeal board to tell you the mistakes you made. You don't need to spend the money that's about to be spent. I want to work with you. You don't have to create an adversary position. Mistakes that are made on this so far are too much. I think you guys should look at what you voted on last week. And I ask you, did you make the right decision last week? When Deputy Mayor Thorne said, did you understand what was in this book? Did you read this book? I think some may not have. I think some may not have necessarily read it to the level that you did. I think some may need to review that again. And for those that had that opportunity tonight, I ask you to rescind your decision last week. If not, say you totally understand what you did. Say you totally understand what's in that brief. Say you understand and agree with what you did. Because I think someone could be breach of public trust. And I think it's a mistake. I think the fear of all this is a mistake. I want to work with you. There's a lot of great people in Torrey. I grew up here, and you guys are great people. And I ask you to do what's right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, as you mentioned, that these applications that you're talking about are currently gone to the appeal board, so we really can't say anything about it. All right, where am I to? Mr. Thorne.
Thanks for understanding on this and just unload and move on to regards to what's going on in Great Pond area. I'll just give you a little bit of history first. In 1912, the land was purchased by the Thorne family. And in that time, ever since, on up through. That's why I'm representing and such. There's a big problem with this now. But we have some real concerns here. This thing has been in limbo
Hmm.
Let's fine tune here now. If this cannot go, are you prepared to open that up? And allow people to do it? There's revenue there, there's a lot of land there. I'm speaking about just the 60, not anything west of me or north of me. There's lots of land around, there's no question about it. It's frustration, and I don't mean to come across the way I'm coming across, but it's really, really not fair, and it is. And I think people were, you guys weren't around back in the day when this was starting to go around and come about this stuff. It is destructive. It is expropriation. We've been on table to do anything with that property. Invest zero. And this is a major concern. I don't have to spell it out to anybody here, I know that. It's a big piece of land, it's a big family, we'd like to do something with it. We're hoping if you give us, it's one thing is either get off the cart, give it up, take care of the people that are being affected because you need regional water. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm hearing.
All right, so if I understand correctly, I think it was 1976, you probably know better than me, when that was put in watershed originally?
1974.
1974, okay. So
I get it.
I was only young, I was pretty young then, so, but, and we've had email conversations and telephone conversations, and what I can tell you is that we are currently looking at Great Pond as a potential water supply. I think that, well, the last council and now into this council, that we've taken an approach where we need to move forward with looking at it and find out if it's gonna be a viable water supply or not. And that was part of that study that we just had done with regards to habitat. And I know that I mentioned this to you before, and it was kind of surprising to me that the next step was that, to find out how much you can draw down on the pond to maintain habitat for fish in the pond. So we got that piece done. And there is a part in our budget coming forward, put in our budget, to look at additional, an additional study, or additional, send it into Department of Environment and Water Resources with the province to find out the next step. So we're in obviously a difficult situation where our one water supply is near maximum capacity, and the only other potential pond that's designated as a water supply, at least municipally, is Great Pond. So we're going to move forward as fast as we can with trying to figure out if it's going to be viable for us to do or not. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to have to put a price tag on it and see if it's going to be a direction that we want to go or that we can go. So up to that point, really, I don't know. Council wouldn't be able to make any decision before we actually got to that point, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
Cannot cancel, as to how they're going to approach the people, and what is there for the people, that own property, if that's the way this starts. Because it wasn't going this way for decades, all of a sudden there's a turnaround. When you look at the flow levels, they're pretty tight, pretty damn tight. I'll be surprised, but I don't, like, is there a time frame on this? Is there, but again, my big each one of you guys here are helping out this community by being where you are. What are you prepared to do? Have you discussed this and made a decision as to what do we do, the right thing, or do we do the cheapest way we can go? And I'm talking about fair market value. I'm not talking about because it's frozen for this or frozen for that. I'm talking about people such as ourselves and other people that
Yeah, there's
we didn't see. But you know where I'm going.
there's other people that I've talked to too that owns land in that area, and they all have the same concern as you do. But until we get to the point where we're going to make a decision on how we move forward and what all that encompasses, how do you deal with the landowners in that area, and how do you deal with the water supply if you're going to move in that direction? I don't think that we could really give any kind of concrete answer until we had everything in front of us to make a decision.
So the last step would be appraisal on property, and if you have to make the water reserve.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that would be part of the process as we go forward, to look at where the watershed is, who owns what, and how you go forward.
One last question, I don't mean to slow you guys down.
It's all right.
What do you think, just from your experience of being around for a while, what's the time frame?
Well, I think that where we're to now and the direction that we're going is somewhere that we haven't gone this far before, to make that determination if that's going to be a viable water supply where the town wants to go in that direction. So I think for many years, it just sat there as a potential water supply, and it might have been looked at, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago or more, and there was an initial price tag put on it, what it was going to cost to put a water treatment on it. I think I remember a number, it was $20 million or something like that. But after that point, not really a lot happened there. So we are in a situation now where we've been faced, and Mr. Cody knows this, and everybody around the town knows this. When you're sitting around as a group and you're trying to determine where you're going to go with 50 and 60 water allocations, it's really in a hard situation to be in as a council when you're trying to grow your town and you don't have any water capacity. So that's kind of where we're to now, and there's an urgency there to find that out. So that's kind of where we're to.
I know I said one last thing, but I apologize for that. The only thing, I know you're looking at the finance, you're looking at the setup, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, that part of it, but surely, if you would have to go per, that should be factored in too, we're not talking about property. You know, so it's gotta be part of the fact that was adding up here.
So,
Include at this point.
well, I mean, once we get to a point where we have to make a decision, then we'll look at every factor. I mean, I can't sit here right now and say that the town would have to look at buying all that land or whatever. I have no idea of the legal ramifications around that, so I really couldn't say one way or the other. All I know is that we'll get our direction from water resources in the province to guide us in the direction that we need to go if we decide to make that into a viable water supply. So
Thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
you're welcome, Rick. Thank you for coming. Alrighty. I know that didn't answer your question to the satisfaction that you wanted, but I'll try my best. All right. Mayor's report. Well, I had a busy couple of weeks. I'll just rush quickly through this now. So on the 16th, we had 3 department budget presentations here. On the 17th, we met with MP Joanne Thompson to talk about the town's priorities, and number 1 priority that we talked about was water. And then we had 4 department budget presentations after that. Then on the 19th, I attended on behalf of the town Autism Society function, and that was a great time. It's a great organization that the town supports, so I was happy to go there. Even though I did have to miss the wine and food thing that was at Common, which I heard was excellent. There's some members of council attended that one. On the 20th, I went to the National Child Celebrations at Torbay Common. Spoke to a lot of residents there. They really enjoyed it. They feel that we should be doing something like that at least once a month, I figure. So it's great for the kids to get out and the parents to be able to get out and for a couple of hours and make use of our beautiful facility over there. On a personal note, on that same morning, I made my 50th blood donation. That was a significant milestone for me. And I thank Councillor Tepper, because when I ran for council the first time, he put out a challenge to everybody running for council that year to go give blood, because he's an avid donator. You were, I don't know if you are now, but you were. Right. And, you know, I started going that time, and I've been going ever since. So it took me 8 years, a little over 8 years to make 50 donations, but it was pretty cool. I think, and, you know, I think all of us look around and we have members of our families and friends that might need blood for whatever reason, if they're dealing with cancer or any other type of disease. So it's a worthwhile thing that I continue to do, and I guess I'll continue to do it. Might take me another 8 years to get up to 100, but that's my goal now. So, anyway, thank you again for that. Monday, the 22nd, we had a council budget meeting. The 23rd, council met with MHA Wall to discuss our town priorities. Again, number one on our priority list was water and water treatment. Then after that, I went to the Lions Club Awards night, and I thanked the Lions Club for inviting me, and MHA Wall was there as well. And, you know, they're doing great things in our community, and I thank them for that. And they got 2 brand-new members inducted the other night, so that was good. I won't attempt to remember their names. I think the gentleman's name was Gerald and Cynthia, okay? They're brand-new members. They live up on North Brand Road. I had a great conversation with them. And they're originally from Ottawa, I believe, and they moved here, and they don't even mind the weather. So it was nice to see them, and I welcome them to Torbay, and thank you for choosing this for your home. On the 24th, in the morning, I went to the Public Works Committee meeting. 27th, we attended the Fire Department Awards night. Myself and some other members of council were there, and at that same time, we cut the ribbon on our new fire department annex there in the back. And I just briefly, I'll just acknowledge those that got their long service awards. So Dale Pittman and John Cody were recognized for 20 years of service. Greg Power, 15 years. Jamie Pike and Jonathan Christopher, 10 years of service. Gareth Roberry, 5 years. Randy Strickland was Firefighter of the Year, and I would like to acknowledge and thank Deputy Chief Jerry Dunphy on his upcoming retirement and his 20 years with the Fire Department, and also Chief McGrath on his upcoming retirement and his 47 years and 9 months with the department. I better not forget that 9 months. But, you know, those guys, they are the epitome of commitment and volunteerism in our town, and I want to thank them for inviting us to take part in their ceremony the other night. And I also want to thank them for their, you know, their steadfast dedication to the town, and their number of volunteer hours that they put in is unsurpassed, in my opinion, and I thank them for that. And I would also, I think that's it. Perfect. Excellent. That is the end. Any questions or comments on any of that?
One comment, Your Worship. I just wanted to, you know, echo your congratulations for years of service. That was what I was going to say in my round, so you can skip me now in my round, because you just said it all quite eloquently, and certainly, you know, kudos to everybody who won the awards and years of service, and Chief McGraw, who's actually retiring at this point in time. So I don't say any more than that. Just thank you.
All right, thank you. Reynolds?
No, I might as well, because that was my congrats as well, so you summed up really well. And it was a lovely night, and it was great to see Thinking Thompson and MHA all in attendance at that as well, so
Right,
really nice.
excellent. Strathby?
Thank you, Worship. I was out of town, so I missed it, unfortunately. But, you know, the fire department that we have here is second to none, and the work that they put in is amazing. And I'm really happy to see that ribbon cut on the annex building. We worked hard last term to make sure that we had a solution for them to help them with what they do. And although I missed the opportunity Saturday night to be here to do it in person, I want to take the opportunity now to say thank you to the entirety of the fire department, and congratulations to everybody. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Got it? All right. Thank you very much. Now, moving on. Correspondence. There's a correspondence here for the Municipal Assessment Agency Urban and Avalon Regional Director Ballots. Just the one you're running for, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we got to do, we'll have to do a motion to, can we do that? Want to do it now? All right, does somebody want to,
So you want to leave for that? Council?
I don't think so, you're not in a conflict on that?
I do?
But you do have to leave? You just can't vote, you can't vote on or speak to it.
No, but do Council
council's decision. She can abstain.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can vote for yourself. I mean, there's no, I don't know.
No, I don't, that's not.
All right, if you want, you can step out. If you feel you're in a conflict. What? The Urban Regional Director, yeah.
There's two.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. All right, somebody will put forward a motion?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
seconded. So you're moving that we vote for Deputy Mayor Thorngoss?
Is the motion so that they can step out, or is the motion for the ballot?
Motion for the ballot.
Okay, so Councillor Pollard, do you want to step out before, or do you just going to abstain? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so we will do a motion for Councillor Pollard to abstain. So can someone motion that, please?
I motion.
Motion, seconder, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we'll do a motion for Councillor Thorngoss that she's in a conflict because she's on the ballot. Moved,
Second.
seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Or got that looked after. Now, somebody want a motion that, who we're gonna put that X by? Motion by Councillor Tapper.
Second.
Seconded by
Yep.
Councillor Manning. Then the motion will be that we're gonna vote for
Deputy Mayor
Thorngoss.
Thorngoss for Urban Regional Director for the MAA Public Directors.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're gonna do the other one too? We haven't even talked about that one. When does it have to be in, Don? December 16th. We still got time for the second one, right?
December 16th.
We got another meeting before then?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we'll just forward that other one on to admin, and then we'll bring that ballot back next time. All right. Okay, somebody want to go and get Councillor Goss? Guess we could have did both of them after, but anyway, whatever. Done now.
Send that.
All right. There's a letter here from professional municipal administrators. Letter to council about professional development. We'll forward that on to admin. Municipal Assessment Agency, update. Again, do admin. There's a email here, correspondence from a resident inquiring about, what was he inquiring about? Public transit within the town. And I did respond to him and told him that we did look at some things in the past, but there's programs currently being reviewed regards to pilot projects for municipalities. So we'll forward that one on to, who's looking after that? Public Works, Planning?
We could hold it for strategic planning if we wanted to, and I can also advise the resident that we'll be issuing a survey,
Okay.
and ask them to contribute as part of that as well too, prior to strategic planning.
All right,
The deadline on that, for that funding, for that pilot,
Yeah.
$100,000, I thought that was sometime in November,
November.
October.
We can follow up. I haven't seen anything on it since, but I'll follow up on
Yeah,
it
I
pretty
think it
sure.
was 18th or something, Councilor Pollard, I sent that for the last meeting, or one of the meetings, for follow-up, the information on it. The 18th, I think, wasn't it?
On, it was the end of last week, I think, yeah, I think it was 19th.
yeah. This inquiry is more about public transit in general in the town, so it's more of a,
This is a good opportunity.
strategic
to
thing.
avail This $100,000, if we
What is that $100,000 for, sorry?
pilot for public transportation,
Another one.
you know.
okay,
Yeah, John Abbott came out with it shortly after he was elected.
okay. there's some residents' correspondence here that I received, and I asked to be added to the agenda, and these are people that, were concerned about the marine ingredients plant being proposed in Portrait Coast St. Philip's. So they can just all be forwarded on to planning. Planning has them all already anyway. All right. Committees, council. Planning, land use development. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. We met, on the 18th, 24th, and, the first one that I have here is, myself and, Councillor Collard and Director Swartz. First motion I got is PR 2021-013, 79 Upper Evenings Path, residential infill, RI, land use zone, proposed home business wooden crafts. Town of Corbeil is in receipt of an application proposing to establish a home business creating wood crafts such as jewelry boxes, carving boards, wooden toys, etc. There will be no customers coming to the subject property and will be no associated signage. There was no written response to this, motion. The motion therefore is to conditionally approve application PR 2021-013 and to issue a conditional development permit to operate in accordance with the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-25, specifically Regulations 33 and 90 pertaining to discretionary uses, the requirements of the RI land use zone table, conditions outlined in attached background report, and standard conditions for the operation of a home business in the town of Corbeil. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Can I
Aye.
just ask one question for a vote? Why is it that we have to use discretion for the decision?
Because it's a home business. Right?
Is that not a permitted use in that area? I'm just curious.
Home business are discretion in every area, right? Julia?
Okay.
Director?
Yeah, that's correct. All home businesses are discretionary uses in the town.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, good.
All right.
The next one is.
Oh, hang on. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
BE 2021-006 in association with C 2021-120, 430 Baldwin Line, residential infill, land use zone. Backfilling and regrading their portion of the backyard. The town is in receipt of an application to regrade the northern portion of the property at 430 Baldwin Line north of outside the existing fence yard area and to have fill material imported to bring the rear lot up to the same grade as the fence backyard and driveway. The regraded area to then be capped and crushed stones and in the area of the driveway covered with pavement. The rear portion of this property runs along a protected habitat buffer zone known as Gosses Pond Habitat Management Unit. The detailed report is attached. The committee reviewed the background report and discussed the proposal in detail and concurs with the department to forward the application for the proposed backfilling of the rear of the property to the upcoming local council meeting. This is because the development area is located in the additional 15-meter tree buffer to the wetland next to Gosses Pond Stewardship Management Unit, and the backfilling will be contrary to the Department of Environment and Conservation letter dated February 14, 2012, requesting the maintenance of a tree buffer in this area. The committee does not want to set a precedent for the whole area, as there are other adjacent properties with rear areas still maintaining the tree buffer. I have a motion to refuse application BE 2021-006 for the following reasons as per Regulation 22. The application is contrary to Municipal Plan Policy 3.1.3 Environmental Policies, subsections 8 and 10, which aim to protect important wetlands in Torbay. And it's also contrary to the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-25, more specifically Regulation 21, subsections 1 and 2, which require this property to comply with requirements of other statutes and conditions such as the Department of Environment and Conservation letter dated February 14, 2012, as well as it is contrary to condition 9 of the RUR land use zone table, as backfill in this area may cause situation negatively affect the adjacent wetlands. So moved.
Second.
Mover and seconder, any questions? Go ahead.
Like was mentioned, there are other backyards in that area that may potentially be in danger as well. And I think from here on in, we gotta really be careful because of what's happening, not only in Newfoundland and Canada, but, you know, all around the world when it comes to flooding, especially. And this is a protected conservation area, and I think any alteration whatsoever may negatively impact that as well. So, you know, when it comes to water runoff or wherever it is in the town, we've got to be cognizant now about the results of, you know, impact of climate change, which everybody should be aware of, you know, as to what's going on.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I just want to agree with Councillor Tapper. This is a significant wetland, and my understanding is it's actually protected under some sort of international agreement that the province receives funding for. And this agreement, to my understanding, is between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And I also want to touch on the fact that, you know, I attended the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meetings last week, and one of the biggest, you know, things that we talked about was the impacts of climate change, and we've been lobbying the federal government to make sure that we're doing our part on that. And, you know, in those conversations, we talked about the impacts of climate change in British Columbia and the absolute devastation out there, and our hearts go out to the people who were impacted there. But also here, you know, in our own province, while I was meeting with colleagues from across the country, they were acknowledging the impacts of the rain here in the west coast of Newfoundland Labrador. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's very important that we do the best that we can to make sure that we're looking after all of our wetlands. We have species and animals that need that wetland to live, but we also, as people here in the town, we've got a $10 million price tag now to deal with water issues with the stormwater management plan, and that's 10 million taxpayers' dollars that we've had to invest to mitigate storm management here in the town. So I think this is another great example of making sure that we're looking at all those things and we take decisions in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else? I just got, I guess, one question. Where it talks about this particular applicant has a fence. So is the fence is within the residential zone, I'm assuming. Everything beyond the fence is conservation zone buffer?
It's a bit of a unique situation. You are correct. So the current owner recently purchased the property. So the past property owner basically had the fence right at that boundary between the residential zone and the rural zone. And then the section between basically the rural zone boundary and the wetland is that 15-meter tree buffer that the Department of Environment wanted to requested that it be protected as well. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. That's all I want to know. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the next one, Torbay Municipal Plan 2015-25, amendment number 4, 2020. Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, amendment number 8, 2020, Bernice Drive amendments for adoption and public hearing process. I'm not going to go into all that background. It's basically down in the motion. The committee supports proceeding and recommends that the Bernice Drive amendments be forwarded to the next regular council meeting with a recommendation for adoption, appointment of Dan Nosworthy as independent commissioner, and that notice of a public hearing may be given in accordance with existing protocols in place once the minister has appointed Dan Nosworthy as independent commissioner. And the motion reads to adopt Torbay Municipal Plan 2015-25, Amendment Number 4, 2020, adopt Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, Amendment Number 8, 2020, appoint Dan Nosworthy as independent commissioner, and proceed with the public hearing process in keeping with existing protocols in effect once the minister has co-appointed the commissioner. So moved.
Second.
Seconded, questions? Greg?
The motion says to adopt the Torbay Municipal Plan Amendment Number 4, and then Amendment Number 8. But how are we adopting it if it is being put forward for a public hearing? Can you explain to me that process? I'm not quite sure that I understand the motion as it's written.
We're adopting the motion to move forward with the public hearing.
But the way that it's written here, it says adopt the Torbay Municipal Plan Amendment Number 4, and the next one says to adopt the Torbay Development Regulation Amendment Number 8. So I'm reading this as we are adopting both of those. So I'm just wondering if we need to reword this motion.
Well, no, because we adopt those, then we have a public hearing. If we put out a notice for a public hearing and nobody writes in, then the things move forward. If they do, then we had to have the public hearing, right, Julia? Can you explain it, please?
Yeah, it's basically the wording that's required in accordance with the Urban Rural Planning Act. So there's a two-stage process involved with amendments. So there was already a public consultation component, and the minister has now adopted the regional plan amendment component. So now council can basically proceed with adopting the amendment, which means you make it your own. Like you're saying you as the council are proceeding forward with adopting this amendment, and then a independent commissioner hosts a public hearing and receives any concerns and commentary. In the second stage, it's what's called approval. So nothing comes into effect until council goes to the public, or the commissioner goes to the public hearing process. If all is an acceptance and the commissioner prepares their report and they say, recommend proceeding or recommend proceeding with an amendment, yours is the final call to then proceed or not proceed, and that stage is called the process. So the wording that's in there is correct. It's a two-stage process in accordance with legislation.
So just to be clear, when I vote for this, that I'm voting for us to adopt this as presented in the public tonight for a public hearing, where that public hearing will happen and people will have a chance to speak to it at that point. And then once that's done, then council comes back and takes a final decision to actually approve these amendments. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next motion that I've got here, I'm asking for to be deferred.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say for the public record that I have not been talking to YBC, and that I had asked for this to be deferred earlier today in an email. So I just want that to be known.
I'll vouch for that. We had conversations on this earlier today, so there was no,
It's good.
Could I just
Go ahead.
comment more than ask a question? We've all seen that motion in our package, and I'm glad it is deferred, because, and I got to ask council to please put this on the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting on Monday night. We've got a delegation here again, and they'll be back in 2 weeks' time. But as a group, we got to get in the room and talk about these issues, because
Councillor Goss is new, Councillor Manning is new, I'm new and old, and I got a history like Deputy Mayor. This goes back to when the initial application came in for that development. So I got a story to tell, or two, with the background and it goes back to Mayor Codner's day. And Mayor, you were there. So, but I would like to get everybody together at Committee of the Whole meeting and spend an hour or 2 hours or whatever to look at these applications at least one more time or more and see, and the developer has a point. You know, he wants to, so maybe there's some other options out there that we can consider, but we got to talk about them. And you know, I'm 2 months here now, and I'm getting kind of frustrated actually of these things, because again, these were deferred from the last council to us, and now we got to work on them. But it's taken more time. Christmas is going to be here in a couple of weeks' time, then it's New Year's, so how long are we going to go on without talking about this? And time is money, right? So that's my request, to put this on as an agenda item for next Monday night, please.
All right.
Mayor, if I could.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's really important to continue this discussion. Water is the scarcest resource that we have in this town, and it has been tying our hands for development. And, you know, I sat through, the last meeting I sat through on this issue with these discussions before those motions came to the table was a 4.5-hour committee of the whole discussion, specifically around water, specific around these applications, and the recommendations came forward and the vote was taken. But I think I also want to raise the point that if there is something that Councillor Tapper has to share, or if there's another piece of the discussion that can be had here to go back and make sure that we're doing it right, that's absolutely important. And so I thank you, Councillor Tapper, for raising that point tonight, because at the end of the day, our job here is to do the best that we can for the people of this town and make sure that we're taking the best decisions we can. And Mr. Thorne, I heard you tonight when you said your families have been in limbo for many years, since I was a child.
Councillor Apley?
So, sorry, my apologies. But I just want to make sure that people know that the commitment is there for us as a council to sit around, have these discussions, and work to find solutions. And I think that's a great recommendation, and I fully support his request to add this to the next committee of the whole for discussion. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to follow up on that, Your Worship, if I may. I mean, that was the initial conversation myself and Deputy Mayor had this morning around this whole deferral process. I think it's important that everybody comes back to the table with a full compendium of information that is there that relates to, you know, many years of numbers and emails and non-emails and supposition and non-supposition to find out exactly what transpires at the end of the day. We all voted on the number of water allocations that were there, rightly or wrongly at the time. There were 60 that we all spoke of. I think that needs to be considered in what we did as well. So none of us can back away from saying that, you know, the previous council didn't know that they voted for 60, because they certainly did. But, you know, in fairness to everybody, I certainly don't have any problem going back and revisiting information to make sure that we all walk out on the same page. And to Councillor Tapper's point, I think it needs to be done sooner than later, because it has been hanging around for a period of time and needs resolution one way or the other, be it the same or different, and let the chips fall where they may, and we just know what course of action that we as council have to take as a whole. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, great. Carry on.
Okay, Torbay Heritage Amendments, Heritage District Sites and Structures, proposed municipal plan and development regulations 2015-2025. As written request of the club committee chair of November 26th, and further to a joint meeting held between town council members and NHA Jody Law on Tuesday, November 23rd. The Planning and Land Use and Development Committee is concerned about protecting Torbay's Holy Trinity District, including Holy Trinity Prayer Garden and the old cemetery. The town's 2015-2025 municipal plan makes reference to heritage preservation 2009 and adopted heritage regulations in 2014. In accordance with the Torbay Heritage Regulations 2014, Codner House and Shed, Old St. Nicholas Cemetery, and Old Holy Trinity Parish Cemetery are registered heritage sites in Torbay. Several other cemetery sites have qualified for status by the Heritage Foundation of NL, however, have not been registered under town regulations to date. Torbay History House was also designated as a municipal heritage site after its purchase by the town. Other sites worth considering as part of Torbay-wide heritage amendments are the old, how do you say that word now?
Ecclesiastic.
Ecclesiastic.
Such as Holy Trinity Church, the Prayer Garden, and the new Holy Trinity Cemetery, the new Holy Trinity Parish Hall, as well as St. Nicholas Church and Codner House. There may be others. Outside some of Torbay's natural heritage, such as the shoreline and National Historic Site Torbay Beach, Amherst Landing, none of Torbay's cultural and, say it again, Joe.
Ecclesiastic.
Heritage is currently protected under the town's municipal plan and development regulations. The plan and regulations do not designate or zone any of the above referenced sites through the future land use or zoning map, specific policies and conditions. Since the sites of cultural and heritage significance to the town, it has been documented in the 2009 Heritage Plan and 2014 Heritage Regulations. The committee recommends to proceed with a heritage amendment. Okay, so, the motion is to proceed with mapping and text amendment to the Torbay Municipal Plan and Development Regulations 2015-25 called Torbay Heritage Amendment to identify, designate, and rezone Torbay's ecclesiastic and culture districts such as structures and establish associated policies, regulations, and conditions. This will include the establishment of a new heritage designation on the future land use map, identifying and designating specific districts, sites, and buildings, and the amendment of the Torbay Municipal Plan to specify associated goals, objectives, and policies for these districts, sites, and structures, as well as a new heritage zone on the land use zoning map, identifying and zoning specific districts, sites, and buildings, as well as add a heritage land use table, thereby amending Schedule C of the Torbay Development Regulations to define regulations and conditions around protecting and management of development or redevelopment of these heritage sites. This amendment may also involve amendments to Schedule A, B, and D of the Development Regulations 2015-2025 to further specify intent and requirements of these proposed amendments, and the amendment process will include a full public engagement and consultation process. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Questions? Councillor Tepper?
Finally, we're getting something on heritage. And I'm a big heritage fan. There are other towns that have taken other initiatives, for example, at the town of Marystown and the town of Bay Roberts. They've got heritage districts recognized in their town plans. And so, you know, and there are others, and we always had a heritage committee in Torbay going back for a number of years. We had a heritage advisory committee, and now we've got the History House board. And we talked about this actually, we had a meeting of the strategic planning committee of that board. So, and I told them about this coming down the tubes. And this is a great example of what could happen. You know, the Flat Rock Grotto is getting praised, you know. Sites like this is really, you know, I don't know, the church got to do what they got to do, but this, you know, is really going to the extreme. So I'm all in favor of this, and I thank the director for including so much in this motion. Hopefully it covers everything, but, you know, we gotta protect, actually, we looked at it 4 or 5 years ago to come up with a Heritage District designation down on Lower Street for that area. But you gotta be careful, because residents thought it was a rezoning. You know, it was completely different. You know, we're not touching rezoning. It's all about what can and can't be done within these districts. So, you know, we gotta make it clear if we're gonna go forward with this and define to residents exactly what we're going to do. It's not rezoning, but it is going in our municipal plan just as another layer of protection. And because we are running out of the older buildings, we're tearing them down, and they're disappeared. But for, at least because, you know, the appraisals are going on for the church, the prayer garden, and you know, all around the city and the province. So we gotta do this as quickly as possible and get it approved, and hopefully everybody's gonna support it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Trina?
Before we vote on it, I'm, like Councillor Tapper, feel very strongly about heritage. And I come from the town of Bjorn, where we have heritage grounds and heritage buildings. And as a student, I worked in those. One of the first jobs I had outside my family store was doing that. So I share your passion and love for heritage and the protection of heritage. And that's why I've been such a strong advocate for the Heritage House, to make sure that we were able to get that in place. I do have one question, though, and that's just about the cost of doing this. I'm just curious to see, from a resident perspective, for us to pass this motion, do this work, what associated costs will be there for residents to do that? And just wondering if anyone could answer a ballpark of what that would be. That's all.
Right now, that's not budgeted for, so, I mean, one consideration may be to include it for next year's budget, but in general, you know, like to hire an external consultant for combined amendment, probably looking at $5,000, something like that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Okay, anyone else? I just got a quick comment. I think that it's a really good thing. I know that we did try and do this in 2015 with the heritage designation for, it wasn't just Lower Street, it was the whole area of going down Torbay Road as well. And I know a lot of residents did have concerns at that time. We had a public meeting, and you're right. Most of what they were concerned about was the fact that the town was going to rezone the property to heritage, and that it would affect those people that maybe built a house in the 70s, that's not quite a heritage house, but they were worried that there would be particular restrictions for upgrading their house, changing siding or whatever, and that was not part of that. So I think that when we go out with this to communicate it to the public, we need to be very clear on what it is that we want to do, and make sure that we're leading the conversation and we're putting the information out there so that somebody else doesn't tell our story for us. So, other than that, I'm good. Back to the chair. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The last one is a motion to accept permit listings for the period of November 12th to November 25th, 2021 as presented. So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
There's 2 sets of minutes there. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I'm assuming again that everybody's after reading them.
Any questions on any of those planning minutes? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Next on the list, administration and human resources. That would be Councillor Mann. Thanks, Don.
Thank you. So one of the first things there is a memo dated November 25th to Mayor and Council concerning the COVID vaccination policies being put in place here. Town of Torbay is committed to providing a safe and healthy workplace for all its employees. This also includes reducing the potential exposure to COVID-19. In keeping with federal and provincial government guidelines, the town will be requesting all staff to provide proof of vaccination by December 17th, 2021. The draft policy was reviewed by all members of council. The Administration and Human Resources Committee agreed to bring forth a recommendation to the meeting tonight, public council meeting, and this is the motion. Motion, in accordance with the town's obligations under the Newfoundland and Labrador Occupational Health and Safety Act, and to provide a safe and healthy workplace to its employees, that the town of Torbay adopt the COVID-19 vaccination policy effective November the 29th, 2021. This policy will be communicated to all staff.
Moved. Seconder?
Second?
Seconded. Comments? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Carried.
And so the committee had a meeting on Monday, November the 22nd, 2021. Myself and Councillor Tapper and Director Mark Whalen were in attendance. One of the items, the first one we discussed was Strategic Plan 2022-2025. One of the things was a resident survey option. Committee discussion held on issuing a resident survey option in the early new year to gather feedback from residents on the priorities to be considered or incorporated into the 2022-2025 strategic plan. The 2022-2025 strategic planning brainstorming sessions and meeting schedules were discussed. Discussion was held on the proposed timeframe and availability of council members to attend a series of strategic planning sessions to be held in the early new year to finalize the 2022-2025 strategic plan. Meeting dates to be confirmed for the early new year as determined by committee in consultation with CAO and all members of council. Then we went on to discuss performance, productivity, training, and development. The 2021 engagement survey, gap analysis. We were provided with an update on the data analysis currently underway in relation to the 2021 engagement survey issued to all employees. A copy of final results and findings will be presented to all council members with a targeted presentation date of January 2022. Recruitment and selection. So the seasonal heavy equipment operators, 2021-2022 snow clearing season. 3 new seasonal hires scheduled to commence employment during the first week of December. Also, corporate services administrator position. The job posting has been published on a number of external job boards, including Career Beacon, Indeed.com, Mon and Kona, with a revised closing date of December the 3rd, 2021. Also, a posting for planning technician has been published on a number of the external job boards, including Career Beacon, Indeed.com, PMA, MNL, and API, with a closing date of December the 3rd, 2021. Next, on to employee health and wellness. Committee members were provided with an update on upcoming employee health and wellness events scheduled for November and December 2021. For December, their planning is underway to host a series of employee health and wellness events during the month of December. The scheduled events will be similar to those held in previous years, and all employees will be encouraged to attend and to participate. On to occupational health and safety. Excuse me. Committee was provided with an overview of the OSH Committee and Worker Health and Safety Training Session attended by members of the OSH Committee on November the 16th and 17th, 2021. The training objectives of the two-day course included learning how to take a proactive approach to work health and safety and how to become a strong ambassador and mentor of health and safety in the workplace. 2022 OSH Committee meeting scheduled. Committee members were provided with an update on the OSH Committee meeting schedules for 2022 being finalized and the coordination efforts underway to ensure that all committee mandates are aligned accordingly for the upcoming calendar year. OSH Committee structures are currently being reviewed to ensure alignment to the provincial legislation requirements and to ensure that we are meeting the needs of all employee groups and departments. Next meeting is scheduled for Monday, December the 6th, 2021. And
Right,
that's that.
excellent, thank you. Any question?
Could I ask that a copy of the 2021 engagement survey gap analysis that's being circulated be circulated to council? I'd like to just be able to have a look at it and see what we're asking our staff. I don't know, I haven't seen it, and I'd just be interested to be able to review it myself. I don't need results or anything, but just to have a look at what we've put together and what we're sending, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem. You can distribute that to all members of council, and you'll see the survey and the lines of questions, and the back section, just a heads up, it's a open comment section, so I will certainly circulate that and send it out to all council members.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Good. Thank you. Now, to corporate services. Councilor Tepper.
Okay, I'm going to read the corporate services report first. There's a couple of motions that we'll get to next, but just to read this into the record. Payroll, regular payroll for 41 employees for the 2-week period ended November the 10th to the 21st of 2021. Total $87,569.95. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended November the 19th, 2021. Invoices in the amount of $119,507.25 were processed. So we have a list of 9 operating invoices that I'm moving for payment, and they total $129,464.23. So, Triware Technologies, prepaid IT support, $5,750. Will I read them all out first, or one at a time? All? It's been 2 weeks since I did this. Trio Benefits, Group Benefits, November 2021, $14,102.77. NL Power, Consolidated Billing, $11,428.49. Capital Environmental, Rental of Hydrovac, $6,382.53. H&M Paving, Duties Lane, Weather Station Road, Crows Lane, Tina Place, $13,167.50. Afonso Group Limited, Vacuum Cleaning, Hydrants and Valves, $24,092.50. H&M Paving, Repair Road Cuts and 2 Patches, $5,175. Commissionaires, Municipal Enforcement, October 31st to November 13th, $5,152. GFL Environmental Inc., October Garbage Contract, $44,213.44. So moved for payment.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
So there are 4 capital invoices totaling $100,098,005.21. So I present these for payment. Progressive Engineering Gas Tax, Torbay Streets,
$33,637.50. Borealis Consulting, Inc., History House renovation, $97,435.03. Grand Concourse, Rattling Brook to bypass planning and construction, $34,237.60. Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions, Torbay Sidewalks, $32,695.08. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Quick one.
Go ahead.
The Wood Environmental Infrastructure Solutions, is that for the next step for the sidewalks? Is that the engineering we spoke about to do the next steps? Can someone clarify what that is for me?
Oh, that's current project, because
That's
they
on-
are our consultants of choice, so that is their fee, part of their fee.
So the scope that they were doing on this for the sidewalks would be what now? Just so I'm understanding.
The current construction, so from Juniper Ridge to Balleen Line and then Indian Mill Line to here. So this
Okay.
is phase 1 of sidewalk implementation.
Okay,
What we received the funding for under investing in infrastructure.
okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Don.
I can, if you wish, provide of the funding received, what their total fee is. We did go to RFP for those project engineers because it's a federal and provincial government, so it was a public process there, so.
Yeah, no, I know that, now that you say that, I recall. I was just curious, because the last time we had a discussion about next steps in sidewalks, and we talked about engineering, and I just wasn't sure if this was the engineering for the next step that we talked about, like the, beyond what's currently happening, or if this was part of the current project. Yep, perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, there are two motions we need to deal with. Motion number 1, in order to enhance the timely collection of outstanding property and business taxes, the committee recommends the adoption of the enclosed tax collection policy.
Second.
I'm going to read that first. I think I should.
Questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Yeah.
I
did.
understood the councillor wanted to read it out
Yeah.
before we voted.
Wasn't that the motion?
No, that was just the intro to the motion. Yeah.
Carry on.
The policy
Tony
itself.
seconded.
Well, apologies, said motion 1.
Yeah.
Motion 1, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you read your package?
I did. It was in motion 1. I read tax collection policy too.
Tax collection policy, purpose. The town of Torbay shall utilize all methods at its disposal to ensure the effective collection of outstanding taxes receivable. Collection procedures will commence on all accounts that are outstanding beyond 30 days. Collection activities will be carried out in a fair but firm manner in accordance with this policy. This policy applies to the collection of all outstanding accounts, including residential, commercial, and multi-residential. The purpose of this policy is to establish a policy and procedure for the town of Torbay on the collection of outstanding taxes. The town of Torbay will commence collection procedures on all tax receivable accounts that are outstanding beyond 30 days. The following procedure will be followed. 1, collection letters and phone calls. In addition to quarterly statements, the accounts receivable administrator will attempt to establish contact with the debtor by sending 3 collection letters requesting the debtor to make payment or contact the accounts receivable administrator to make payment arrangements. These letters will be sent to the debtor's last known mailing address in the following intervals. 1, first collection letter 10 days after due date, second collection letter after an additional 10 days, third collection letter after an additional 7 days. If this process does not result in contact with the taxpayer, the accounts receivable administrator will then try to contact the taxpayer by phone or mail or email. Service disconnection, rental seizure, and small claims. If contact has not been made or payment arrangements have not been satisfactorily maintained, the accounts receivable administrator, in consultation with the Director of Corporate Services, may initiate water disconnection, rental seizure, and/or small claims.
In extenuating circumstances where these actions are not effective, tax sale of the property will be considered for property tax arrears only. The Accounts Receivable Administrator, in consultation with Director of Corporate Services, will decide the appropriate course of action on a case-by-case basis. Water disconnection. The water disconnection process will commence with a water shut-off notice being hand-delivered to the civic address. The taxpayer is then given until 4 p.m. on the next business day to contact the Accounts Receivable Administrator to establish payment arrangements. If no contact is received within 48 hours, the Accounts Receivable Administrator will instruct the Water and Sewer Divisions to mark the property for water shut-off, put a large X where the curb stop is located. After 24 hours of marking, or when water and sewer crew members are available, the Water and Sewer Division will dispatch a crew to the property to disconnect the water service. Rental seizure. If the subject property is known to be a rental property with a tenant, then a rental seizure process will be initiated. First, a rental seizure letter will be sent to the landlord notifying that if no payment arrangements is made, then a rental seizure will commence. And after 10 business days, there is no response made by the landlord, the rental seizure letter with a copy of the applicable section of Municipalities Act 1999 will be sent to the tenant and a copy to the landlord. The rental seizure will remain in effect until the outstanding tax balance is paid and notice of termination of the rental seizure is provided to both the tenant and the landlord. Small claims collection process may be initiated for amounts up to $25,000 plus the cost of small claims fees. Any tax sale will be in accordance with Section 137 of the Municipalities Act 1999. Collection agency, other receivables greater than $250 may be sent to the collection agency under special circumstances as determined by the Accounts Receivable Administrator in consultation with the Director of Corporate Services. This applies only to municipal receivables. Property and business taxes are to be collected internally and will not be sent to a third-party collections agency. So moved.
All right, hang on. So we got a motion and a seconder, and now you just read out what is the policy for additional
Exactly.
information. So we're good to go.
And I just make a point, I thought it would be important to read that out because it is a policy. And, you know, year after year, we have to go and collect, you know, tens and hundreds of thousands sometimes, right? So I thought it would be important to, I know it was a lengthy policy, but we got to at least bring it to everybody's attention.
Questions?
Yeah, just a couple. With the policy, it says here that we're gonna send 3 separate letters before we reach out by phone or email. And I'm just looking at that from a cost perspective. Would it make sense to have the electronic correspondence before we have the paper correspondence sent out? And I'm just asking the question because I know a lot of residents especially are challenging us on our paper distribution. And I know we as a council have been saying we're not going to print as many community guides. So I'm curious about that. And there's 2 other places in here where it says, under 2, it says here that the Accounts Receivable Administrator in consultation with the Director of Corporate Services will decide the appropriate course of action on a case-by-case basis. That leaves a lot of open room for, I'm going to do something for this councillor and something different for the deputy mayor and something different for someone else. So I just want to flag that the case-by-case basis doesn't mean a uniform application for everybody. And then down further again, there is another point here, I believe it was with the collections agency, and it states that, again, the other receivables greater than $250 may be sent to a collections agency under special circumstances as determined by the Accounts Receivable Administrator in consultation with the Director of Corporate Services. But it doesn't say what those special circumstances are. And again, just to make sure that everybody is being treated equally, I think that we need to go back and have another look at that to make sure that if there are gonna be special circumstances, that they're lined out exactly what that is, because I wouldn't wanna see one resident go to a collections agency and someone else and not have the exact same reasons being applied in both those spaces. So just some comments on the policy as is. I feel that those are a couple things that would be important to residents, and I think that they're also important to me as counselor. And I just want to cite those for debate, because I think that anytime there's a opportunity to, look at it on a case-by-case basis or have circumstances, but they're not defined, then it leaves room for things to be different for different people, and that's not fair to all taxpayers. So those are my thoughts on policy. Thank you.
But the section, it says in special circumstances as determined by, I know what you're saying, clearly, but, there could be multiple special circumstances, but at least the administrator will determine, and I guess record what's what, and, there's gotta be some, at least leeway, what I call it, to, for that determination, right? I'm not sure if the CAO it's unfortunate the director's not here, but.
I've got notes made so I can discuss with the director when he comes back, and he can provide further clarification at next committee level.
Yeah.
I do know from past history when speaking to legal, electronic communications can be challenged. So it would either be registered mail or hard copy of the mail. So we can specify how those first, second, and third letters will be distributed. And I will, there are privacy concerns too about discussing special circumstances. It could be medical, it could be financial, so we have to be very careful on that. But I'll speak to him about those, Councillor Appleby's concerns, and then he can bring it back to committee.
Councillor Pollard, did you have your hand up?
I will say that, I think it's great that we finally got the tax collection policy in place and or at least renewed and updated. And it's one of these things that we haven't done internally before, is we use the outside service agency for many things, and that was less than perfect. And I think if we can get our handle on this, then there's going to be a lot of evolving circumstances that are going to come up when you get involved with tax sales and registered mails and notices and things of that nature. So there has to be some flexibility. To Councillor Appleby's point, I guess, yes, we want to make sure that it's applied fairly and equitably above, amongst all taxpayers. But once people get into not paying taxes, we got to make sure that we do take a line and understand what that means and go after and get the money the best we can.
Anyone else?
Is
Councillor O'Neill?
this similar to what other towns are using, or was this something that we created ourselves? Where did
Would have been based on discussions with other municipalities.
Okay, so it would be what others are using, okay.
Any other comment?
Can I just ask one more question?
You already,
The CAO mentioned she's gonna take this back to the director and get clarification. Is it
Right.
possible to defer until we have that clarification? I'd like to vote in favor of the policy if that clarification is provided, but if it's not, I'm not gonna be able to support it. So I just want to ask that question.
The vote was already held, Councillor Appleby. Council already voted
No,
on
we
them, it
didn't.
didn't?
No.
You sure?
no. The-
So, no, to your point though, Mayor, you mentioned that.
There was a motion and a seconder, and then I
I-
called for a vote. However,
Yeah,
Councillor Tapper wanted to read out the policy first,
because I had
so we didn't
7,
vote.
because I had 7-0 in my notes.
Yeah, we didn't vote.
Okay.
Right.
But I
Just to be
would,
clear,
I would prefer if council would consider that we could move forward, because this will allow the director working with the accounts receivable administrator to get things ready to move forward. I think the clarifications are minor in detail. I understand where Councillor Appleby's come from a consistency perspective. I do understand that, but I would ask council if they would consider passing the motion so we can start putting the foundations in place in earnest.
so
Just-
my thought on that, before I hand it back to you, is that the policy itself applies to everyone equally, no matter what. Everybody falls under this policy. However, everybody's circumstance is different. You gotta have some flexibility to be able to deal with people. You know, if a senior has issues with being able to get their taxes paid for whatever reason, it's really none of, not something that we need to be discussing in the public, someone's particular reason why they can't do anything. And the people working here at the town have to have some flexibility to offer different options. And I'm sure that those options are there to allow people to be able to defer. Well, there's another policy coming up for tax deferral policy. So, you know, I'm fine with this. If we have to come back and make any amendments to it later, we can. But back to you.
Just a comment, you know, they are valid points, and we'll take them back to committee, and if we need to, with discussion with the CEO and director, we'll have a look at them and bring them back for amendments. Right now, again, it is important to get this done because we presented these proposals to council last meeting, but because we didn't have the dollar amounts included, we deferred at that point. So, you know, and it is getting near year end, so it's important to get something at least as a guideline, and we'll consider it next Monday at our meeting, board.
Okay. All right. Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, motion number 2, background. The committee recommends the adoption of the tax deferral policy with a household income level for the full deferral of outstanding taxes as $20,000 lower limit. Above the full deferral household income limit, the collection of taxes and the amount of taxes deferred will be prorated in a phased approach until such time as the household income reaches $40,000 upper limit. Once household income surpasses $40,000 upper limit, the tax deferral policy will not be available, and the full amount of property tax billed will be considered collectible, and a tax collections policy will apply to any outstanding balance.
So moved. That's your motion. Now, if you want to read out the policy, you can.
Policy is not
Seconder?
as long as, so,
Seconded.
but I don't think there's any need, because again, this is, the amounts are there, and it's clear as to what the policy is.
Okay. All right.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or comments?
Just one.
Go ahead.
We already have a policy around taxes for incomes that we do every year at budget time.
Those are discounts. That's not going to do with this.
Okay, so this is only for anybody who's in arrears?
No.
Okay.
Well, no. This is for anybody that would like to enter into, or
An agreement.
It'll be anybody who's in, you know, financial circumstances that they really can't afford to pay the bill on an ongoing basis, and the deferral will actually attach to the property until such time as the property is transferred. So what it does is actually defers our collection really till some point down the road. We don't lose the money, but we just don't get it right away, and that helps the person who can't necessarily afford it, otherwise afford it, so based on the income thresholds that are there on that policy.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, there's some other information documents there. Trio response, director did contact some other providers, and there's a reply there. And the analysis, the year-to-date analysis of legal fees, that's there for your information. It was requested, so CAO provided that. And regular check register and invoices over 5,000 and processed from November the 6th to November the 19th. If there's any question?
I guess I was surprised to see the amount in there for water allocations, 19,642. Like, what's the breakdown of that? Because
Those are related to the legal opinions, but I can get the additional details on that for you.
we had them here one night and talked to them, but I mean, that's a lot of money for when I had mentioned about consultation with legal regarding water allocation.
Yeah, but, I can provide, because I'm in my office, I have the details.
Yeah, if you could please, I'd like to see that, and I think that if we've had that advice on this, I think, and that's really important to have all of that at our meeting on Monday night.
Councillor Thorncross, what, did we not have that in the documentation that was provided in the last communal hall meeting that we had? I thought that was in the documentation that was on the civic website, the legal opinions. I thought you had that included in there.
We don't put legal opinions in public.
Okay.
The opinion will send out the information to us, but the breakdown, like, I remember having, anyway, it's not, I don't think that's something we need to get in now, but that's a lot of money, for what that advice that we received, so, again, I think that's, I was just really surprised, actually, I was shocked with the amount of money that was for that.
So could I just ask for clarification on what was provided? Because I thought that it was when we had that 4.5-hour meeting about the committee of the whole and the recommendations around the water allocations and the recommendations that were made by committee.
The legal opinion was provided, but not this cost breakdown. Like, all the invoices would have come through the regular system as they would have been if they are above the threshold. They come to council if they're below, but I never, I wouldn't have provided the breakdown of the cost, but I did provide we did provide the opinion itself.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That was the question I asked, because when Deputy Mayor Thorncross said she'd like to have that provided for the next discussion for all of us, my recollection was that we already had access to that before we...
My point being that there has to be more to the legal associated costs with water allocations than that document that we see. If that document costs that amount of money, then there's something.
Okay.
So can we expect to see that breakout in the next public council meeting? Because I think it's very important, and I was the one who requested the breakout of the legal costs to be available for the public. I think it's very important that residents know where money is going. And I think the breakout of that water allocation legal cost is very important as well, and I'd like to see that included in the public package. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Economic Development and Tourism. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just scrolling down here now. All right. The Economic and Development Committee met on November 18th from 6 to 7, and myself and Councillor Manning and our Economic Development and Tourism Officer, Deanne Lawrence, participated. We had a welcome to our committee member, and Deanne explained information about the committee to Councillor Manning. We talked about the new business social media campaign, and again, extending that welcome to Elite Kitchens and Design. It's always great to see businesses starting up in our town. The EDAC Marketing Awards, that's mentioned here, and the submissions are open, and they'll close on December 9th. Let's see, the Regional Wayfinding Project, we had a conversation about that. The Torbay Business Awards, the deadline was extended to November 30th, but I spoke with the Economic Development Officer today, and I'm very happy to know that we have nominations for all categories. There will be an external group of people to evaluate the awards, so that'll be separate from council. But it's really important for businesses to be recognized for all the awesome things they're doing here, so the deadline is tomorrow. Under tourism, we talked about marketing, and we talked about garden tourism. There's information in the package there about the tulips and where to find them. And under culture and heritage, we talked about, can't believe nothing there. And then all that stuff handed over now to the History House to look after. Thank you. And we confirmed the meeting for the next 2 meetings, and the Economic Development Officer will be attending the CBDC Cabot Annual AGM and the Economic Development Newfoundland Conference online. If you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Any
And
questions?
seeing none?
No, I just got a comment, and this is
Yeah.
to the public. If you're gonna nominate a business for a business award, really sell it. Don't just put the name in and say this is a deadly business. Give a little story about it, and how it is that you got your service from there, and what do they provide to the community. Because I know I had questions last time. Well, how come this business didn't get it, and how come didn't that one didn't? Because you can't just put in, say, "Boy, this company is deadly, and I loves them." I'm sure everybody else loves them too, but when we got external people evaluating these things, they don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of everything. So it's important that people actually put in their message exactly why it is that that business deserves that award. You know, it's a big deal, I think.
That's a really good point, Mayor, thank you. And you're 100% right. We do have external people who have an interest in business development and economic development to review this, but they can only make their decisions based on what is written in front of them. So it is very important to have a comprehensive package put together about that business. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
All right,
and a
any
warm
other-
welcome to Councillor Manning. It's very nice to work with you on the committee. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? No? Good, okay. Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Pollard.
I'm not last on the list. Thank you, Your Worship. There's no motions or anything associated with this, so, and the report is attached, and hopefully everybody read it, because I'm not gonna read each line item, as they're pretty much repeats from week to week in terms of the projects that are being monitored on an ongoing basis. I guess of note, the stormwater management implementation in the Skipper's Landing area is still ongoing, and expect to take a couple of weeks, and that's the last part of the project that we had all the discussion on at a previous meeting. The flow meter project, I think we got information back that we're waiting on the environmental approval for something, but that wasn't, yes. So that has to be done, and yes, it is the normal thing that we do, is have to pay for a permit, or at least in my experience, that's what we do, but I'm disappointed that the notification didn't come back saying it was ready, sitting there somewhere waiting for, you know, a permit to be approved, and not being passed on in the government area for sitting there for that long. Sidewalk project, the sidewalk from Balling Line to Darrell Pye Drive should be completed in the next couple of weeks, and that will probably be the extent of the sidewalk work until the new year, I guess, depending on weather, but they will patch up and finish that part. Other than that, there's not much else. The trail development has been put on hold for a little while. They're trying to get an alternate solution to the existing trail that's going from Western Island Pond down to the bypass there. And they may have to cross the river in a couple of places, but we'll see. And also getting prices on the smaller trail from the road itself down to Western Island Pond at the west end of the road there. Other than that, Your Worship, that's my report. If anybody got any questions, feel free.
Question?
So did that start?
Councillor Appleby, hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. I just want to say how great it is to drive up the north side of Torbay and see those sidewalks. And I just want to extend a big thank you to council and when he was Minister Bragg and our MHA, past MHA Kevin Parsons, for the work that was put in to make that happen. I have to tell you, when I drove up there a couple days ago, and to see that in place and actually the concrete in for the sidewalks, it was just fabulous. So thank you to everybody who's been a part of that. It's been interesting, and I remember a previous council member said to me, "You'll never see it," and I said, this is a committed council. So very much congratulations to everybody for the work done on that so far. It's just brilliant to see. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Just wondering, because I know that was the same information that was put in there last 2 weeks ago, but did the work actually take place from Forest River Road down?
No.
Or Western Island Pond, I mean, from the
No.
trail? No?
No.
Because I've noticed in here that it's a trail upgrade, not new construction.
Right, no.
Because that would be an easy one to.
You would
And
think.
The other thing that I guess I need to go back and ask again, it's not in there, and that's the update on that funding, that application for the $100,000 for the pilot for
The-
public transportation.
Yeah, There's nothing gone in for that. Deadline is November 19th.
I hope that we're not after this evening, so. That was a big one.
All right. Okay,
Could I just make
go
a
ahead.
comment?
Sure.
About sidewalks? Dr. Tommy Hall ran for council in 2013. He had to give it up after a year, but he ran on one issue, and that was sidewalks. And that's when the conversation started.
Yep.
Yeah, so great job.
Every time sidewalks come up, I automatically think of as soon as Councillor Appleby said sidewalks, time hard.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in his office the other day, he was delighted.
And if we could note, he was actually here that night when we passed the motion. He rearranged his schedule that night to be here physically in person when we did that. So hats off to him as well for his work to start that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep,
We gotta get
agree.
it from the home down to the main line,
Yeah.
that's the goal.
that's in phase 20.
No. There are people that need, and when you look at those seniors coming down.
I know.
pushing their little stroller and what have you from that seniors home.
Absolutely. I think that the whole conversation around that, what you're saying, is just it's an unfortunate testament to how far we were behind on our infrastructure in a town our size. When sidewalks is a very important thing, but it wasn't on our top of our priority when we didn't have a depot and we didn't have a community center and we don't have water and we don't have, there's a lot of things that are all involved in there, and I think it was a lot of work for council, and thank you to MHA Parsons and Derek Bragg for being able to get us that additional money to do that. So, you're right, it's all good. Okay, up next, Recreation and Community Services. Councillor
you.
Goss.
We met on November 24th at the Common at 4 p.m. Myself, Councillor Thorne Goss, and Director Jen Martin. Just some program updates. On National Child Day, the department held a Family Fun Day. Great event. There was 159 people that attended that event. We got the Santa Claus Parade coming up on December 5th with anybody wanting to register a float should do so by December 3rd and can contact Scott Martin, smartin@torbay.ca. The director recently applied for some various funding streams, including $15,000 under the Government of Newfoundland Age Friendly Grant and $1,000 under the Government of Canada Celebrate Canada stream. The Torbay Common Gate will be now open constantly starting November 30th for snow clearing and ice control. The director also provided some stats for various items, including October special events brought in 1,864 people. And I think that's something that we don't realize until our director takes the time to see that stuff, to see exactly how many people have come in. Torbay Common had 1,644 people enter the facility excuse me, between November 1st and the 17th. The gym itself in the Commons is in use for 73.75 hours of a possible 98-hour week. And the Torbay Common multi-purpose rooms are in use for 62.5 hours of a possible 98 hours per week. So I think that just shows there's very significant usage of the Common right now. Again, we hope to get even more use out of it coming in the future, but the director is doing some great things over there and the staff. So we look forward to our next meeting on December 8th.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I was asking today about the gate being opened. Did we have a motion? I thought we had a motion about when that gate was opened and closed. Don, do you have?
We do. The deputy clerk did locate it for me this afternoon. I did forward it to the Director of Recreation Community Services, and we're gonna have a discussion tomorrow about it as well too. There may need to be a recommendation and an amendment to the motion, because it stands right now that it's only to be left open during snowstorms, whereas the discussion operationally is to keep it open 24/7. So we'll come back with a recommendation on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to note that, because I did recall there being a motion on the table. Thanks.
All right. Because it's recreation associated, I will say this. that the town of Torbay does community skates. And last year, when the arena told us that we were going to be able to do our community skates again, myself and Councillor Glant at the time agreed that if we couldn't get anybody else from council to go out there and do the COVID screening, that he and I would do it. And so I've been doing it ever since. And feel free, if anybody else, if you have an hour on a Sunday afternoon, when is it, 4 o'clock, 3:30?
Yeah, 4:30 to 5:20, December 12th.
Right, so you just gotta go there at the beginning, make sure the people write their name down and their number, and then once they're on the ice and you can leave, you don't have to stay very long, and collect the food for the food bank. So if anybody wants to do that, next one's on the 12th, I think, on the 12th of December. I don't mind doing it, but I don't know when something might come up and I can't do it, I don't wanna be stuck, so.
Just a
Anyway,
quick question, Mr. Mayor. Is that still going to be the same process with the COVID?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Do we have to scan?
I'm not sure, actually. I'd have to check on the scanning, but I know the arena has asked us still to provide somebody for contact tracing.
Okay, because all I did was take the
Yeah.
names and numbers, right? One of each group. I don't have no scanner.
Because they have had a third party doing the scanning. So I'm not sure if that'll be in effect during this public skate. I know we'll still collect the food
Okay.
items, but it'd be nice to know, just to be sure there, what exactly the protocol is going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
Let me
that's
check that.
interesting, because it's going out for the hockey, like for practice or playing hockey, the security,
Yeah.
being the one, they're doing the scanning and what have you, right? Because you gotta be scanned to get in there now, so that's a whole different.
Well, we've always had to do our own scanning for the community skates.
Well, I was out a couple of times and did it, but it was only recording.
Yeah.
We didn't scan anything.
No, that's all.
So, I just wanna make one comment here about the rental rates. I know it's in here about going to the finance committee for input, but that's something that will come back for discussion with council as well. That's what we've always done with anything with regards to changing the rates, so before the change, it will come back to the council.
Okay,
That needs to come back to the council to review.
all right.
If I can just, with the rates right now, it's just with the director and myself and Councillor Thorne, it's more of a simplification of how we'd like to see the rates being done. There was 3 or 4 different segments of things that's sort of overcomplicated in our opinion, but again, it will bring it before council, but it's just to keep it easier to track and just pricing wise, so it doesn't confuse people.
I agree. Okay. Anybody else have a question? Oh, we're good. All right, thank you very much. Liaison committees. At the Mayor's Congress, I don't have anything. History House and Museum. Councillor Tepper.
There's a memo there from the History House manager for an update, and again, our next board meeting is next Thursday. So I must say the manager, you know, he's got things, he's getting things done as far as the interior and getting plans there to, you know, once the time comes, hopefully soon, to move all the artifacts back. He's got the plans in place for that, how they're going to be, you know, returned, they're going to be inventoried, cleaned, rehoused, and he's even started getting some volunteers recruited and trained in the new year. So things are happening, and you know, our board is anxious to have our first board meeting there, because some of these people haven't even been in the History House ever. So, you know, it's come along quite well.
All right, thank you. Intergovernmental affairs, provincial, municipal, basically I talked about that earlier. We had the MP and MHA in here last week and met with them, and we're in constant contact. Don and I actually had a conversation with MP Joy Thompson on Friday night, Don? Saturday night. Anyway, she advised us of some ACOA funding that's going to be available that, and we were bouncing a few ideas off her to see what's eligible, you know, and she's really eager to get that out. She says that there's, in our district or our area, our entire province, I think, she said she had no applications. But there's lots of applications from Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick. So she encouraged us, these are gonna short turnarounds, but we got to get some applications done up and send them in and see what happens. Hopefully we'll be able to avail of some things. I told her some stuff that we had on the go that might be eligible. Monuments is one thing, so it might be eligible for the Manning project, and there's a few other things that, say, oh, if you got something to say, you can add, or
We actually are in receipt of that information, and I've circulated it to staffs for idea generation, so we'll discuss that at our weekly staff meeting as well too.
Okay.
And I did advise the MP and the MHA that we will be submitting applications, and we'll let them know the details of it.
all right, perfect. There you go. There you go. All right,
Excuse me.
Jack Byrne Regional.
Is it possible to get a copy of what the scopes are circulated to us as well? Because there may be some ideas that we have that we could share with staff on those pots of money, to know which ones from ACO are available.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Jack Byrne, Council Pollard, not in the report. Did you have your AGM? How'd it go?
I wasn't there, unfortunately. I had
Oh, okay.
prior commitments. I think
Do you want me to do that?
Councillor Appleby and Councillor Goss were there. Yeah, you go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I can deliver that report as the outgoing chair of the Jack Byrne. And then maybe Councillor Goss, if you can take it as the next meeting that happened after. My last meeting as chair of the Jack Byrne happened, when was that? Oh my, I'll go back and look. But we met, we had our AGM, the financials were approved, so if you guys could ask that those be circulated to the towns if they haven't been already, that'd be great. We finished up our business, and the vice chair of the board is the mayor of Pooch Cove, and LMO is the next in line to have the chair seat. But because they won't have their election until tomorrow, what the board decided at that time was to appoint the vice chair, who could take over the duties in the interim until the chair is appointed once Logan Middle Cove, Outer Cove were able to get themselves someone recommended to go there to chair the board. And we met on November the 18th, was the evening we met. So that was my part of the meeting. I have to thank council for the opportunity to be vice chair and chair. It was a fabulous 4 years. I'm looking forward to the good work that our appointees are going to do, and I'll turn it over to you, council. Next meeting update, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Appleby. We met, just to briefly go through some things. The arena manager, Lauren Tucker, went through. I guess the biggest thing of note is that the ice servicing machine is due for replacement, and we've taken it upon the board that we're looking into and going forward with a new Zamboni. We're going to do the electrical route this time, mainly because of the carbon factor that's that left from the present machines that are inside the building, and many years of propane and so forth going in the building is not just hard on the environment, but, it's hard on the individuals who spend a lot of time, whether it be the kids, parents, or workers. And it's also, there was a study apparently done that there's a certain time of the, I guess, whether it be years, that there seems to be a lot of rinks across the country that are going this route. That also affects the pricing of the ice servicing machines, that we will be able to get a better price because more of the municipalities are actually getting them. So it does bring down the cost factor of that. And that'll be financed in-house. But again, that was the biggest issue that we spoke of, and we were all in agreement that it is the best route. The Zamboni right now is almost going on 13, 14 years old. And has a lot of time being fixed and some breakdowns, and that adversely affects the rink running as well. So,
Good, all right, thank you.
Mayor,
Just following up on that, sorry, go ahead.
again, no, there's just one last point I forgot to mention in my update. I did remind the board, last act I did before I left was to remind the board that the submissions for the annual operating plans, as per the new agreement, needed to be sent in. So just a note that we had talked about that at the meeting as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention it.
It's okay.
Just on that, I'm glad you went first. They came across my email today, I looked at it, and it looks like next year will be fine, and there's gonna be no budget requirement from the town. If everything operates according to the way it is, they should generate a surplus and covering the cost of the ice surfacing machine as well for at least the last 2 months of the year, so we'll see what happens the year after that.
Okay. All right. So, question. So does that mean that Jackburn Arena Board are not gonna send us their budget?
They will, yes.
They will, okay.
Yes.
All right, but there's no cost impact to us?
No.
All right, thank you. All right. All righty. Northeast Avalon Joint Council. Deputy Mayor.
We were trying to have a meeting that had to be canceled, the November one, because we had a couple of MHAs going to present, and at the last minute their plans changed. And so the next meeting, an election of officers will be, in January.
All right, thank you. Are we gonna update this to, add Councillor Tapper as also Northeast Avalon Joint Council? Yeah, we can do that.
It should be motion to council by the committee structure by
Okay.
administration and HR.
All right, so bring back a report, motion next meeting, and then we'll do it. Perfect. Okay, RNC, we got a meeting this week? Wednesday. Be there or don't, but it's probably gonna be a good opportunity to ask questions to the RNC about, different issues around our town, so. You know, it's, I also saw an advertisement today, Don, for something else with the RNC, with the town. Was that same meeting?
No, it's something different. It's about, online scams and it's just.
Yes,
a
okay.
community-
Fraud stuff.
Fraud
Yeah,
prevention,
okay.
so it's a community, information session, something totally different.
Okay, perfect. We'll advertise.
They look different, yeah.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you. So that's that. Torrey Volunteer Fire Department. Councillor Manning.
Okay, we did have a memo sent out concerning the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department Constitution. There was a draft constitution, but I'd like to defer that motion until later, because there's still looking at some of the changes that could possibly be made there.
Okay.
And also, as Mayor Scott had said in his report, the Saturday night was the ribbon cutting and the 2020 awards presentation for the firefighters and opening of the annex. I just want to say congratulations to all who worked on that, and it was a fantastic job done there. And I know the firefighters are, is something they wanted and needed, and are quite happy with the results. And also, as Mayor Scott had said, that Chief McGraw and the Assistant Chief Jerry Dunphy have both put in their resignations.
Retirement notice.
Retirement, I should say, sorry. Yeah, I should know that word. It's gonna be different for them certainly, but I think more especially it's gonna be different for the town here, because we've been so used to dealing with, you know, such good people, and I'm sure who's gonna follow in his shoes is gonna be just as good. So to both of them, I just say congratulations to you and enjoy your retirement, and to all the firefighters who received their pins and awards, congratulations to all you guys and ladies. And that's it.
Excellent. And, you know, you're gonna enjoy your time as liaison with the fire department, as I did. I was over there for probably, I don't know, almost 5 years, I guess, before I turned it over to Justin. But, you know, I got an opportunity to spend a lot of time with those guys and gals over there, and they're excellent people. And Saturday night, after everything kind of died down, and we were all just sat around in a circle in that thing out there, and they were having a cup of tea,
Yes.
and they were sharing stories about their first memories of the fire department, and it was really interesting, and it was something that I really appreciated them doing that.
And on that note, I'm not sure who did the video presentation.
Yeah. Michael Dwyer.
Well, it was fantastic, and a little bit of background. Myself and my husband and fire chief and his wife have been friends forever. So back in the day when a lot of those pictures were taken, like it brought back some vivid memories for us of how they all were and who was involved. We've known all those people for years, and they've always been, each group has been a fantastic group to work with and hard workers.
It is, it's excellent.
We watched them grow up.
Absolutely.
It was like,
Absolutely.
so young, and anyway, it was,
Yeah, it was a good job on that video.
grow up, yeah.
All right, and that's my report, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next on the list, Urban and Municipalities Committee. I guess I might have something to report back next time, but our last meeting was at the M&L convention, and Councillor Happy already reported on that, so nothing to report there. Notice motion. There's a notice motion there from Deputy Mayor. Did you want to talk about that, Mary?
Well, it's the past number of years, with regards to residents that want to receive a hard copy. And I know this in here, I said programs or events, but even I just wanted to include in there as well as newsletters. And when you talk to people, even though people will say yes, they're on social media, and I know the mayor brought it to my attention with the survey that went out, and people, and I can see anybody on social media, not everybody, because some people still like to get the guide. And a few years ago, and a few people had mentioned it, and even the mayor himself had mentioned it, they went out in the form of a calendar. And people literally used to take it and pin it on the fridge because there was something in there for every day of the month and when it was happening. And I think that, you know, when our programs, and I've talked about this, go online with e-services, we can't have that online unless people have the hard copy. So just to go forward, and we've talked about this many times here in past councils, that we don't need to send it out to everyone, but I think when we were brainstorming, just saying about having so many of the copies dropped off at the various businesses throughout the town, you may, but I think we owe it to the people to do that. So that's where this is coming from. And so you want me to read out the motion?
So it's only a notice of motion, right? The motion comes forward at the next council meeting.
Okay, I thought where I sent it in as a notice of motion, that the motion came forward tonight.
No,
Was
it
my
would actually
understanding.
be tabled at the next public meeting.
Yeah.
One thing I would ask you to consider is to identify which businesses you want them located
Well,
as.
I think that Councillor Appleby made a good point at the last meeting, and wherever the times, the notice that were on times is dropped off, and that would be, to me, would be a good idea to have them wherever, and they're pretty much throughout, any business throughout the town. So that'll only be a matter of contacting.
Well, I can ask Catherine, but I mean, if that's every business that the Northeast Times, you're gonna need more than 100 copies.
Well, whatever it takes, I think that it's important to do that, because after the first month, we may find that a certain business, none of them will pick up. And I think that from a council perspective, from my experience over the years, that we sit down and we have great ideas, and we think that something is going in a certain direction, and I think, you know, you talk about learning something new, even our last orientation, I guess, that had, so if we wanna make something happen and see it happening and to be implemented, that it needs to come forward in the form of a motion. And I guess that's really important, to do
Okay.
that.
Correct. So can we get staff to put some meat around that
No, absolutely,
motion,
whatever, I just.
and then we'll bring it back next time and
Yeah,
then do that.
Whatever
All right.
needs to take place with it, because I just automatically assumed again that, not, I guess with the staff and the way things have changed, be something that recreation and community services would have looked after, but now I guess where we actually have a communications person, things are different, and I wouldn't even have, asked that
Mhm.
question.
Okay.
So, I really think that it's something really, really, and I can't believe the amount of people that actually have taken the hard copy of the guide, even though they're on social media, and still like having it on their counter or what have you, to be able to refer to it.
I like having it. No, I'm never on social media.
No, of course not.
All right, so we'll do that.
Quick question, do
Yeah.
we do a phone alert or something on that as well? Are we still doing that or no?
Yeah, we did a phone alert when the guide came out about if people wanted hard copies, they could come to the town hall in Torbay Common to get them. So I counted today, we have 119 left between here and Torbay Common.
And how many numbers on the phone out? Do we know how many?
I think
people are
3,900, over 3,000. Yeah, 36 or 3,900.
Just to add to that, Councillor Goss, earlier the year, we were sending notifications out to all residents on phone, and people were saying they were being bombarded with too many messages, and they actually asked to be taken off the phone system. That void alerts is originally supposed to be for emergency cases only. Now, there are some other important messages that do go out, but it's supposed to be limited for emergency purposes.
Thank
So.
you.
How many did you get printed, Jen, when, between here and the common? If there's 190 left, how many did you?
I think 200.
Okay. So you printed 200 and that's all that being picked up?
Yeah. I can confirm with Mia tomorrow, but I think it was 200.
It was 100 for Town Hall and 100 for Torbay Common,
Yeah.
just to start, yep.
All right. That's interesting, because with the numbers of people that were going through there in October and November, like, there's pretty high numbers in the thousands, so, anyway, all right. Thank you. New business. Where do I start? Let's go that way. Deputy Mayor. New business?
Okay, I'd just like to mention that the Women's Institute, which has been active in the town for very, as long as I can remember. I know when Kingsman initially opened up, and before that, I think they were located somewhere else. But anyway, they officially closed out the account, last week. And when I think about that and the amount of people that I know that have been active, the first one that came on last week when I was told about it, and up until a few weeks before she passed away, that was Mrs. Jen Pepper, was one of the members of that. So it was a big thank you to that group. And even though the numbers and what have you were limited in the last going off, just that, that they've done a lot of work, volunteer work here in the community. I had the volunteer fire department, and then you've already covered that. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to any of the staff at the Common. Last week I attended that excursion downtown, I participated in that. The REIT meeting last night, and even with the wine hearing, can't wait for the next one of those. But with the staff over there and the way things are going, big thank you to everybody that's involved with it. And one of the things I just wanted to bring up is to say a big thank you to Tina Neary, Councillor Tina Neary down at Portugal St. Phillips. She's been involved with the mental health task force, and I know when she attended the M&L conference out in Toronto, they had a really good turnout, and she had a lot of the work between the legwork actually is between her and Brad Power. And next year, on the meeting that we had on Thursday night, it looks like they're going to have one of the sessions of probably they're looking for preliminary, which is, they've come a long way in the last 4 years of working with them. So I mentioned it to the CAO the other day, and I'm going to send out the link and the information that's available. There's a lot of resources that's available with that group, and now on a monthly basis, they have a webinar, and it's all to do with mental health, and it's, the resources that they have is fantastic, and it's all, when I send it out, I think that a lot of the councillors will find it very informative, some of the information that's in there, so, that's it for me.
That's good, and to your point, before you move on, I know I sent an email from you that you would like to include Mental Health Task Force as one of our liaison committees.
Yes.
I think that's a really good idea.
And we talked about that the other night, actually, and I've been meaning, like, if it's not there and it's easy to overlook it.
Yeah.
And, there's a number of new people that are interested in joining that group as well. And one of the big things, I mean, we have to spread the word and get it out there and communicate it out to anybody that's a representative on the council. We're all different than those that run joint council in
That's
my
right.
mind.
Yep.
And especially with mental health today, it's so important, and the number of guest speakers that we've had, it's really good, so.
I think it's a good initiative and a good idea, so we can make that into a liaison committee, and then council can officially appoint somebody to that, and if it's you or whoever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we'll-
Just to clarify though, that's not a council appointment, that was
No, no.
individual members, because I'm
Yeah.
also on that with Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Cornbass as
Okay.
well too. M&L saw proposals
Yeah.
from individuals interested in serving on it, right? So it's not a council specific.
So we can add it.
Yes,
But it's valuable, mental health is valuable, so.
well, when they started out, it was only like 4 years ago. It
Yeah, okay.
came through, I guess, as a resolution out
Yeah.
there. Because we talked about it the other night, CAO, I guess, from having somebody on there from PMA. And, it came up, I guess, they were heading direct, so they're looking for somebody else from, the rec to be there.
Okay.
Or, you know, so it's.
I'll
it's all
talk-
good- It's all good stuff.
I'll talk to CEO the week, see how we can incorporate that into our agenda
Yeah.
somehow. All right, perfect. Where am I to? Councillor Goss.
Just like to give a shout out to our high school team this weekend. We traveled to Bay Roberts to the Wesley Goss Memorial Tournament. It was kind of cool because he's actually my uncle, my father's brother. It's named after. We started off slow, but we had a great result. We competed against the best teams in the city with everybody with their full-fledged teams. We didn't exactly place where we wanted to, but it was a great result. Also, our Gabe Brown, who's a Torbay resident, he's the leading scorer of the St. John's Metro League right now, so I think it's a little feather in the hat for Gabe. Also, I know it's been mentioned, but I too would like to congratulate the fire department and the recipient of all the awards, and to the chief and deputy chief on their retirement, and well wishes for the future. And I really thank you, both past and present, for their services in the fire department.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Worship. I would ask that you and CAO consider the liaison committees, maybe adding M&L and FCM as well, where I'm here as a liaison to both of those pretty significant boards for the work that we do across the province and the country. I just wanted to extend a big thank you. I was participating in the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meetings this week, and that's why I wasn't here Saturday night for the fire department event. I want to put a personal thank you out to Churns Rogers, MP Churns Rogers, and his wife Yvonne for the fabulous feat of lasagna that they invited us over for in their condo. It was a beautiful evening, and they were very gracious. I'd also like to thank Minister Goody Hutchings for taking time to come and participate and answer questions at the FCM event. But I also want to thank her for coming down and taking time to meet with myself and Craig Pollitt and have a conversation with us, aside from the rest of the delegation as well. It's a really good event to meet with municipalities from across the country and learn about who's doing what and what solutions do we have. And we were lobbying, ministers. We had Minister LeBlanc there, and Jagmeet was there, as you've had pictures taken with him past these events. And we talked about issues that are relevant and pertinent to Torbay, the access to drinking water, wastewater, transit. There was a conversation about regional transit and having towns work together to provide transit solutions. And I thought, oh, that might be something that's a benefit to us, and I was texting you in the session about it. We talked about affordable housing, we talked about broadband, we talked about issues around rural and urban communities and what they look like, and we also talked about the economic recovery for everybody post-COVID. And, you know, talking about the changes to the funding that we've had, and this town has seen at least $700,000 ourselves through funding that FCM has lobbied for. So I just wanted to put a big thank you out to the town for the nomination and the ability to participate at this table across the country. It's really important to note that there's 2,000 communities that this organization represents, and you have the MPs from right across this country represented at that table, where we ask the ministers, will you support this, will you support that? And of those initiatives that I just mentioned, we ask directly the questions, can we count on your support for those? So I will provide a report and I will send it back. And the last thing, I sent a note to our economic development officer today. There's a market, it's called the Lansdowne Market. It's an outdoor Christmas market. Fabulous. And I actually put together a bunch of pictures in a Dropbox to send to her to have the discussion about seeing if we could take a scalable version of that here, where you have your vendors outdoors, people coming through, live music, fires for people. This thing happens, it happens every year, and they work it into the farmers market. So it's an economic development piece, but I can see recreation and all kinds of different pieces that could fit into it. So that was the points I just wanted to get across and make sure that I had to thank you for the ability to participate in the first place and for the hosting that we received. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Pollard?
Pass now, your worship. We did the fire department thing earlier on there, so.
All right. Councillor Manning, pass? Or Tepper?
Pass.
Pass, all right. Councillor Me. Just gonna be really quick. I'm just gonna announce the birthdays for December. CAO Don Chaplin, Bob Hussey with Infrastructure and Public Works, Mark Whalen, Administration, Bud Tapper, Infrastructure and Public Works, and Noah Moore, Torbay History House Museum. Happy birthday, everybody. Hope you have a great little celebration for yourself, and we're starting to get back to something normal, so you can get out and get a cake and have a bit of fun with your family. Also, I want to pass along congratulations and thank you to Lisa Lewis, our heavy equipment operator here with the Department of Public Works, and 9 years of service with the town of Torbay today. Thank you, Lisa, for all your hard work and dedication to the town. And I would say thank you, my regular thank you to all the staff and council for all the hard work you put in over the last couple of weeks that you're always doing every day. So I thank you for that. And last thing, I think I wrote down here, got something. Yes, congratulations and good luck to Team Guju, who won the Olympic curling trials last night and are going back to the Olympics again. I'm sure that they're going to have a lot of. I'm hoping they're going to win. They're going to be good. But congratulations to those guys. They got to be, they got to be among the top of curling teams that I've ever seen, certainly. But it's really good. It's nice to see Newfoundlanders succeed like that and go back and play on the world stage again. So, all right, and that is that. Now, where am I to with my agenda? Question answer. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask about something that was on the agenda tonight? Something that was on the agenda?
Mayor, I did send you an email. There was a resident that's watching online, Madeline
okay.
Florm, had some questions.
All right.
Or
Go ahead.
question.
The council might defer the motion to consider YBC's 180 lot development. If you look at the application notes the fact that there's the application is requesting a 30 lot phase one.
Yep.
In a 180 eventual lot subdivision. And also noted that the council tonight adopted the minutes of the November 24th planning committee meeting, where they noted, or they recommended the rejection of the YBC application based on number one, the infill lots that already been given away, or already been approved for others. So, I mean, that situation occurred through the actual action of the council. And the other one is that the YBC was being rejected on the grounds that it did not fulfill the town of Torbay's water allocation policy. But that policy, that standard is the standard that you're considering applications again state that 51 North Pond Road and 7 Darrow Drive should also be rejected on the same standard. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? I do have a question here from Madeline Florent. Her question is, what is the problem that the trail extension has to run into Forest River Trail? Do we have all the approvals in place before starting the project? I'm concerned this is a problem is resulting changes in route, especially that they involve bridges and again are going to result in extra tax dollars being spent to complete the trail than originally budgeted. Like the expensive reroutes the town had to build when they ran into landowner issues when building the trail to the falls, Madeline. The issue, we do have all of our approvals in place to build that trail from Western Island Pond down to the bypass. We did run into an issue with I don't know how to call it. It's a structure there or a hole. Tony, is it?
There's a hole, there's a deep hole of water there that has to be.
Yeah, there's a
moved
deep
around
hole
it.
there, about 30 feet of water that is in the middle of the area where the trail is proceeding. So we're looking at ways to deal with that. Not necessarily have to reroute the trail, but we're going to look at, we haven't made any decisions yet on where to go with that. So that's basically that. All right. So, where am I? Our next public council meeting will be December 13th, 2021, right here in our Torbay Council Chambers in the town of Torbay. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Seconded? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.